I'd known Don for a while. We were working over at East West, and we took a lunch break one day, and Don said, would you be interested in helping us with a reissue series and doing it the way you do it with Music Matters? Would that be interesting? And I said, yeah, it'd be interesting to me. It'd have to be done under certain conditions, if and those mean, you know, I've got to have my mastering guy, Kevin, and the plant that I like to use, Record Technology Inc. And if you want the jackets to be that way, and he said, I do. I want everything to be the same. I want it just like that. I said, well, then we would be printing the jackets at this particular place, and they'd be on this stock, and it's kind of expensive. And he goes, fantastic, let's do that. I'm not just talking, I want to do this. And that's where it started. And everything, you know, from a quality standpoint, everything that I asked for, I mean, every single thing he has said yes to. There's been no compromise anywhere along the line. So what can be better than that, you know? Don, to me, is an amazing steward of the label, because when he wants to do it a certain way, there's no compromise. And that's what we're doing in this Tone Poet series. That's how we're approaching it. No compromise. Well, this is like Dead Sea Scrolls of Hard Bop, I think, kind of, right?
That's a really good way to put it, man. The thing that blows my mind about it is that they're not copies. These are like the original tapes, and you pull them out. They got Alfred Lyon's handwriting on the back because he didn't like Rudy's handwriting.
Yeah.
and you know, from most of the Blue Note records up until the early 70s, there are no multi-tracks, so everything went direct either to mono or to stereo, and this is it.
And he's mixing on the fly, like there's no do-over.
It's pretty
well,
wild,
he could have the
isn't
band play again, but there's no like punch-ins.
There's no punch-ins. You can't fix anything.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the allures of the Blue Note catalog, is that it's direct from the heart to the tape. It's a very spontaneous and very real catalog of music, and I think that registers with folks. What are your biggest challenges when you're mastering these things?
So Rudy I think he was like a genius with what he did. You know, that label, like the bane of their existence was returns. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't want returns. So, you know, he had a way of like goosing the upper mid-range a little bit, mm-hmm. because you think of systems of the 50s and 60s, and they all had this droopy top end. It's not like today, you know, they all kind of had this falling top.
Yeah.
So he would goose that, and it would make horns and drums kind of poke out more, yeah. and be more exciting.
Yeah.
And then he'd have to roll the low end, because if you put too much bass on, the record would skip.
Yeah.
And a lot of the original Blue Note buyers had crummy turntables, right?
Yeah.
And so he's such a genius. He would roll the low end and then bump at 90 or 100. So you hear some bass.
Yeah.
You don't feel like, oh, where's the bass? There's something there. But the kind of stuff that would get a stylus in trouble and make the
mm-hmm.
record skip,
mm-hmm.
he would roll off. It's genius.
That's so interesting, man.
Now when we master, we assume you've got a better turntable than that you probably can play. You could probably hear what's actually on the tape, and you won't get in trouble. You know, it depends on the era. Mm-hmm. Hackensack Rudy is a certain set of problems. Early Inglewood Cliffs is a certain set of issues.
Yeah.
Later on, it's slightly different. So we do it differently. We open it up. We don't compress. If there's real low end, we let the low end breathe. We let it be on there. Mm-hmm. And we don't like goose the top so much. masters are better than any record we could ever make. What Kevin cuts comes damn close, comes really close.
The first thing we do is put the master tape up here on the machine, have to align the tape machine, and once that's done, put it up and play it, listen to it. We don't do a lot to these, but we do a little bit of touch-up here and there in terms of equalization. Never do any compression. But occasionally you have to change levels from track to track. It's not uncommon for the ballads, for instance, to be a little low. I have to bring those up a little bit compared to the rest of the stuff. All of the adjustment and everything is done here on my mastering console. All of the electronics in this system, from the electronics in the tape machine to the electronics in the console and the electronics in the, that's the cutting rack there that actually drives the cutting head. That was all custom, built from scratch. For the Technoids, it's all discrete Class A transformerless input to output. So it's the only chain of its kind in the world. I don't know anything that comes close, personally. The cutting head is a stock Neumann head. The lathe is a stock Neumann lathe, but we have a computer that was made by a company called DJR that drives the lathe to adjust the groove spacing to get maximum density on the record so that you can get either higher volume or a farther out finishing diameter or both. The only digital is at the very output of the chain to make copies for high-res download and that sort of thing. Everything in the chain is analog. I'm a big believer in analog. I like the sound of it. The warmth and all of these things are not over-exaggerated. If you put anything digital into the chain to cut a record from it, I think you're throwing some of the magic away. And so that's always been my philosophy, to keep analog and also to keep digital digital.
So it's a different aesthetic. It's, is the master tape your guide? I want to know, what was it like to be a fly on the wall in Rudy's studio, whether it's Hackensack or Inglewood Cliffs? I don't hold up, the old record as let's try to EQ it to be just like the old record. We don't do that. So two different approaches. No one's right, no one's wrong. It's just different approaches.
Very well. How are you, man? We're still here. We're still trying to make good records.
That's why we're here.
That's what.
That's why we keep doing it.
That's our thing.
This is like 1970s technology, and we've upgraded it to the 21st century. We've improved the polymers. We've improved the process a little bit. We've got better controls. Still, it's the same thing. You're heating up the plastic, you're taking it into the machine, and you're pressing it between the stampers. Things really haven't, and they can't change all that much. It's still brute force.
The whole idea is to give you, again, more of a peek of what happened in the studio. What did it look like? What were the guys wearing? Was the vibe good? We used a plant called Stoughton Printing. These are tip-on jackets done in the style of the originals, except that these are gatefold. If there are better album jacket constructions, I've never seen them. We like to think, if you like this record, you're not going to find a better edition of it. This is the end of the line. That's how I like to look at it. Hopefully it draws you into what happened that day with that group of musicians at Rudy's studio. Looking at the process, we've been through plating, stamping, packing. Again, it always strikes us like it's amazing that it works. Because it shouldn't, but it does. Stylus dragging through vinyl, it shouldn't work at all.
Yeah.
And yet, it does. So I hope you don't mind because you're stuck with us.
We're happy that Don was and the rest of the gang there are happy with us, and that they've been doing it the right way. Yeah.
That's why we come here.
Yeah.